Well, welcome everybody to today's Kathy's Picks Live. We are thrilled to bring a Paul Einarsen here with us to talk about the big changes that have happened with Apple and their iOS. And I am excited as soon as I heard that Apple was going to be making big changes, I reached out to Paul. I think it was in maybe September or late August and said, Paul, can we get a date with you on the calendar? Because Paul is our resident Mac, Apple, everything Apple guru here at the Photo Managers. So if you're joining us for the first time, though, please subscribe to just jump on our little subscribe button there for our YouTube channel, because it means a lot to us to have subscribers and things like that. And every month we try to bring you different topics on the things that would be of interest to the folks that follow us. If you're passionate about photos, about the stories they tell, if you're interested in learning about new companies, if you're interested in learning about technology and how to manage all the changing technology, we are the people who can bring you that information. And we do it by inviting amazing guest experts. Many of them are members of the Photo Managers, of which Paul is. He's a certified pro. He, again, is the person that we go to all the time. He lives in Westport, Connecticut. He's also a certified privacy advocate. So you're in for a real treat. Please put your questions in the chat. We'll leave plenty of time. Make sure that we answer all of your questions. I'm sure you'll have plenty. And at the end, we'll go through those questions. So Paul, please come on and join us.
Hey, Kathy.
Good to have you.
So good to be here.
So I'll let you take it from here.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, again, thanks everybody for coming to see this today. Let me get my slides up and running. Okay. I hope everybody can see the opening slide here. So the topic today is the new Apple Photos, and I'm calling it new, but it really is a retooled version of the old Apple Photos. So I'll get into a little more detail about that. But for those of you who don't know me, I am a lifelong photographer and writer. I've been most of my professional life was in the graphic arts, commercial graphic arts business. And I've been an Apple user since 1991. So I've followed it all the way along. I really like the Apple technology. And I had the opportunity to work for about 5 years at one of the premier Apple stores as a genius and creative trainer. So I got to work with thousands of people about who were, trying to get the most out of Apple Photos, and I came to realize that it has become such a key part of our lives. I really feel like Apple Photos is sort of our second language for many people. We use it to communicate. We use it to create. We use it in all sorts of ways. And what I found is that many people who had never really been exposed to photography at all have become photographers because of the iPhone and Apple Photos. So it's something, I'm a little bit of an evangelist in that I want people who have this cool technology to really get the most out of it. And there's so many cool things that it offers us. So the thrust of the talk today is that Apple introduced the iPhone app, iPhone Photos app, with the iPhone in 2007, and in broad strokes, it's not changed a whole lot. There have been new features added. There have been, some new things under the hood. iCloud came along, but in terms of the look and feel of it, it really didn't change that much. And this year, with the launch of iOS 18, it changed dramatically. This is like really the first big change in the look and feel of Apple Photos since it was launched on the iPhone. So today, um, I'm going to go through what that means. When we're done today, I think you're going to have uh, probably more appreciation for what Apple is doing with this. We're going to talk about the experience part of it, what you see when you open up Apple Photos on the iPhone. Talk a little bit about how it works and some tips about how to use it. So let's get going. I do want to start out by just making sure we're all sort of on the same page here. So, whether you are someone who hasn't upgraded yet, or someone who has and they're uncertain about kind of what they're looking at, I just want to get everybody on the same page. So, if you're not sure whether you're on the latest version of Apple Photos, if you go to settings and then general and software update, you should see a screen something like this that will either say, you are on this or you're up to date, or it will prompt you that this update is ready to install. And what I want to assure people, a lot of people, sort of hesitate to do the updates for a number of reasons. The thing I want to assure you is that it doesn't change your fundamental photo library. In other words, it preserves the photos, it preserves videos. Any keywords or naming that you've done stays there. The folders and albums you've created, it doesn't really change that part of your photos library. What it does do is present a different look and feel. We're going to have a new way to get to the things that you get to your photos and get to your videos, but the fundamental part of it doesn't really change. Now, having said all this, I always recommend that people make sure their devices are backed up before they do an update. Um, Things can happen, but in my experience, it usually goes very, very well. But if you're backed up, you're always covered. You can always go back. So that is that message. Now, this will give you a sense. I just want to explain a little bit about where we were and where we're going with this. Um, on the left, you'll see this is the look that we're all used to. We're used to having this library view of our photos in sequence, and at the bottom, there's a lot of navigation. This is how we've gotten around for years in Apple Photos on the iPhone. Um, Years, months, days. So we at the bottom we sort of have these broad categories of library, for you, albums. We can do searches if we're good at doing searches, and in the main library view, which is where a lot of us spend most of our time, we had the years, months, days, and all photos views to get to. It's a lot. And I think, I give Apple credit and other developers credit as well for getting as many tools as they have in such a small device, such a small space. I mean, there's only so much you can do. But I do think that over time, trying to navigate and use all these different tools can be a little tedious. And the result of that is that many of us have just gotten in the habit of cutting to the chase and swiping through our photos from beginning to end. The new look over here gives us a little different way to get at our photos. You'll see when you launch that you have the top 2/3 of the window is your photo library, as you've pretty much always seen it. But the bottom third is where the navigation starts to happen and some of these new things that you're going to be seeing. If I had to characterize it, this is how it feels to me. It feels to me that for years we've had a kind of a multi-level experience, where we go in, we drill down to the photos that we're looking for, and then we have to get out again and go someplace else. What this new layout offers us is what would be more of a flat experience. So another way you can look at it is if you go to some older websites, you go through links and layers and windows to get to something that you're looking for, whereas a lot of the new internet thinking is very flat. It's it's a single page with a certain amount of scrolling, but all of the stuff you're looking for is on this one page, so you don't have to navigate around. And I think whether that was inspired by the internet or not, I don't know. But to me, this is the difference between the old style and the new style. So we have this kind of look, and now we're going to a newer version. The sort of a visual example of this is, this is the old experience, right? It's like, oh, I want to get to that picture from last month, and rather than drill down through things, the easy thing is simply to go and scroll until you find it, and it's before this event and after that event, and sooner or later you get there. On the With the new experience, you're basically scrolling down to a link that takes you to that photo that you're looking for. We have widgets, we have visual shortcuts, and what I really love is we now have some pretty big icons that we can use instead of looking and reading little links. Okay, now there's a bit of participation here that I'm going to encourage people to do. I want to take a moment and have you ask yourself, how do you find pictures on your phone? Are you a scroller? Do you search on people? Are you a place person, objects? Um, do you Photos that you get sent from other people, do you always leave them in your mail attachment as mail attachments, or do you put them in your save them into your photo library? We all have different ways that we become used to working with our photos. Um, but what I'm going to suggest right now is, as we go through this and you see some of the different pieces we have to work with, think about your your typical week, your a day even, and make note of the ways that you look for your photos. Because what we're going to be able to do, I believe, is cut to the chase in many of the ways that you're looking for your photos and make your experience so much better. So hang on to that, make notes as we go. Now, I do want to say that what we're looking at today is focusing on the iPhone. And I picked that because it really is the way that most of us connect with our photos most of the time, whether we're taking them or reviewing them or sharing them with other people. But it's important to know that um, the Apple Photos is adapted to all three platforms. So you can see here, if you stick all the pieces top to bottom on the iPhone, this is the kind of this is what you get essentially as you scroll down. On the iPad, it's not quite as much of a scroll because you have more real estate and you can put some of these collections side by side on here, so it's a little easier task. And if you go to your Mac, you're going to find it's not that different uh, compared to what you're used to. There are some changes in the sidebar in some of the categories and collections, but on the whole, if you're used to doing a lot of work on the Mac, you're not going to find a huge difference. So I just want to point that out. This is the the iPhone. This is a close-up of the iPad. And this is the Mac, which looks just one way, okay? So what we have is this experience. You know, the whole thing about Apple, when I joined Apple, one of the things that they emphasized was we weren't selling products, we weren't selling technology, we were selling an experience, and they're very, very much into that. So this is the new experience that they're trying to deliver. Essentially, when you take all the pieces here, we've got a library, which is what holds all our photos. We have a photos collection. So we have these collections, which is sort of the new jargon. We used to have categories, we used to have moments. They've kind of distilled all that down into collections. So you're going to start to see this both in the app and in material that you view. So the photos collections are the parts of this that Apple does for us that are just part of the game. Our collections are the ones that we get to manipulate, that we get to create. So let's go through that. I was actually at our local library yesterday when I was working on this, and it sort of hit me that an easy way to understand this is to think of Apple Photos as a library. It's an image library. And in fact, they've been calling it a library for, forever. So it totally makes sense. And you think of a library, you go to a library, you have all these books in this case, um, to browse through. There's discovery moments and there's places to view things, to consume it. If we look at that on in photos, I like to think of the photos library, as it's called, as sort of the same stacks. Instead of book stacks, we kind of have image stacks to browse through, and it has a system. It has it's orderly. It has a certain way based on the date stamps on the photos that it's organized. We can browse through that. We can search it just like we can books at a library. We also get library collections, which are collections in my place. They have books that are trending. They have books that the staff particularly likes and recommends. They may have goofy collections that they put together, but again, it's that sense of discovery. You're going, and consuming this media in this interesting way, and they're kind of helping you find stuff that you might not find otherwise. In photos, that translates into these collections that Apple has built. So Recent Days is actually a new collection that they've added, as is Trips. Memories, most of us are familiar with. Media types. These are all just photo collections that Apple creates for us, and we can take advantage of to find things a little quicker. Then there's the personal collections. The personal collections are the things that we create. The books that we reserve, the you know system, the collections that we make for ourselves. In photos, those personal collections translate into albums. Is the classic one. We all create albums for different reasons. People and pets is something that we tag, we create who's going to be in there. Shared albums, we either share albums to other people or they share them with us, but it's part of what we create into our library. And then pin collections is a new one that we're going to be talking about at the end. But these are all examples of the personal stuff that we do. So for a little more detail here, I'm going to dig down to the collections that Apple creates. I pulled up these examples on the iPad because it's visually, it's just easier to show here. If you are following through this on your phone, you're going to find some of these are simply lists, or they are vertical scrolls. But this is the days, is a new one that is pretty cool. If you think back, we used to have the years, months, days, and all photos. Now, for me, I used to use years a lot. I used months sometimes to kind of narrow things down. I always really wanted to love days, but I never loved days. It was kind of an odd collection. It was a curated collection in the old OS, and it was nice that it didn't have things like documents and screenshots and that sort of thing. It was cleaned up. It was curated, but it also just never kind of worked for me. So I would always go straight to the all photos view, where everything was there, all the junk, along with the photos of the day. What Apple has done in the new Apple Photos is they pulled days out of that grand collection. So now you'll see years, months, and all as the choices in the main library. And days is popped out separately. And I really like it because I think the idea is when I'm out, I'm sharing stuff with people. I can remember a date, um, a couple of weeks back, a month back, and particularly having the little icons, little thumbnails to view makes it really, really easy to go straight to those photos that I want to share. This, by the way, if you look at it on the phone, it says recent days. As soon as you click into it, it changes from recent days to days. And this literally saves photos from every single day that are in the library. You can scroll if you choose to. You can scroll all the way back to the beginning of your library in a day view, if anybody wants to do that. And of course, you can search on all of these days as well. So I think this is going to become a popular way for people to quickly find recent photos that they want to share with people. Another one, this is brand new and is brilliant because when I work with clients, so often it's trying to find those trips. I mean, we all want to save a remembrance of our trip in some sort of curated album or tagged whatever. What this does is it appears to simply identify via Apple Intelligence, machine learning, however it's factored in. It basically looks for series of photos that it believes constitute a trip. And I think, it understands over time where your home is. It looking at the photos, it can say, okay, well, this series was away from home. We're going to call it a trip, and you can go look at it. They've also done a nice job here of adding dates, years at the top, so you can kind of go straight to the year again if you know that year, really well. This can get tricky. This particular one, New York and Virginia, this was actually two different trips, but it it consolidated it as one trip because I didn't take any pictures when I got back home. And so it just assumed that this was all one big trip. So it's not infallible, but it's a great place to start. And keep in mind that even though, this is, giving you a shortcut to some of the things you want to find, um, you still are probably going to want to curate these. You're not going to want every photo from this group necessarily. You're going to want to come up with a slimmed down story to save as an album, or some other thing, or a memory, whatever. So it's a great tool. I'm really eager to see where it goes from here. But for me, this is a great move forward. We have so utilities is a new category, and these are what you get again in the iPad view. These are what you get in utilities. So if you're used to using duplicates, which was in a list before, this is where duplicates are. You can do receipts. It also has some new features here just because Apple Photos seems to be getting better and better about figuring out what things are object recognition. Uh, you can get things like this. So you can pull out illustrations. If you photograph handwritten notes or handwritten stuff, it'll group those. QR codes, if you're someone who saves QR codes for things, you can hide those QR codes elsewhere and just go here to find them, which is kind of neat, right? The other one, I'm going to come back to this later. The one that I love now is this recently viewed. I think, again, when you were talking about how we share photos with people, I'm always sharing the same photos like over and over again. And so being able to go straight to recently viewed, it doesn't matter if that photo was taken 5 years ago or 10 years ago. If it's something that I'm looking at because of, maybe it's somebody's birthday, maybe it's a reunion type thing. If I've been looking at it, I can easily go here and pull it up, which is really nifty. Same thing with these other recently saved, recently edited. If you're working on a photo that you think, I want to tweak that a little more, or I did a really nice color version of that, but I'd really like to do it in black and white. Being able to go back and pull that up quickly is pretty neat. Then we have the group media types. So on the again on the iPad, these are all the different types of media that Apple Photos can pull out. Several of these, most of these actually have been around for a while, but putting them into spatial video is new this year. But being able to put them in one place and being able to have them as their own little like widget is really handy for reasons that you'll hear in a minute. Okay, so we've talked about the full library. We've talked about the collections that Apple Photos makes for us. Now let's get down to some of the cooler stuff. The collections that are the ones we create. Okay. And I think one of the big ones is people and pets. People and pets, if you haven't started tagging people and pets, this is really the time to do it. It has gotten so good. I can actually take the same people and scan and identify them. And the new software, along with the um, Apple chip, the Apple Silicon, the new one pulls up multiple times the number of identifications in the new stuff than my old computer and my old software did. It's really really gotten good. And to illustrate that, this is where I think identification is going. Here was a case where my wife Pam, she bought this new sweatshirt that she really thought was cool, and so I took a picture of it so she could see how she looked in it. And what's really interesting is it basically it identified her automatically. Say, yep, that's Pam. But then I took a picture on the of her from the back, and it also identified her as Pam, which blows me away. And I started wondering, well, is it face recognition anymore? It's more than face recognition, it's kind of intelligent recognition. So, what I believe happened here is that because I have this correctly identified of her here, and it recognizes what she's wearing and where she is, that the next shot, it automatically assumed that this was her and it applied to her. I'm, and I started looking around for other instances of that and found it. Like our cat, who is identified in multiple um, photos, but in this case, you can't even see his head, and it correctly identified him by name. So I'm really blown away with how good the people and pets identification has become. And if you haven't played with it in a while, please go check it out. I think you're going to be really, really excited about it. Now, along with that, Apple decided that they could add groups to the Face ID. So now, when you open up people and pets, you're going to see there's a group section. And next to it, if you hit the create button, it will give you a list of all of the faces, all of the IDs that it's created that you've approved, and you can group them together however you want. So you could have, I think this is cool. I like Pam and Ripley. I've got the two cats together. If you have family friends, you could actually group their entire family together if you wanted to do that. Or one of my clients said, "Wow, I've got three kids. I'd like to create a group of all the shots I have of all three kids together." Um, it's it's a lot of fun. It's new. I think groups is going to be a real hit, and you can put them together for any number of things. Okay, folders and albums. So this is, again, it's a little different look than we had before. I think it's a cleaner look. The uh, albums and folders work the same way that they always have. I won't go into a lot of detail with it here, except to say that for a long time we were not able to create folders on mobile without having to create the albums inside them. Now you can create folders, you can drag albums into those folders, you can merge albums. You can pretty much do the whole thing, except for making smart albums on mobile, which is really cool. So if you've got a few minutes, sometime you're trying to clean up your album structure, you can actually do that on your phone when you're out and about and have a few minutes. A lot of people have been looking for that for a long time. Okay, so that's fundamentally the people album thing. But what I'm going to talk about now, we're going to take that one step further, and we're going to talk about customization, as this is a huge new thing with Apple Photos. Now, you remember over here, if we put all of these end to end, that this is basically the look. So we have the original library that we're working with, and then we have all these various collections that stack on top of that as we go down till we get to what we want. Wouldn't it be nice if we could order them the way that we wanted to? And as it happens, if we go all the way to the bottom here, you'll see that it says customize and reorder. And this is the menu that you get. So all of this can be customized in terms of order, but you can also simply just remove stuff and declutter this whole window to your heart's content. The idea is that to reorder things, this is the default order for that you'll get when you open up Apple Photos. But if you want to reorder this, you can just grab the little handle and drag it up or drag it down until you get the ones to the top that you want. You also can choose to simply remove any of these. So like you can remove what my thing is wallpaper suggestions. I like never ever use wallpaper suggestions. So I can take that off. Um, Shared albums, maybe. Some of these things, featured photos. I generally don't look at those on my phone on Apple Photos. I rely on the widget on my home screen, my whole iPhone home screen, to show featured photos every day, and that's where I look at them. Same thing with memories. I generally don't go into Apple Photos to look at memories. I wait for them to pop up in other places. So you can clean up this. You can shorten it. You can change the order for these things to your heart's content. And if you decide that you really don't want to uh, go there, or you made a mistake, or you got rid of something that you really didn't want to get rid of, all you have to do is go up here and hit reset, and it will go back to the standard thing. I've done it a zillion times. It's really easy to do. So, by playing around with this, you can come up with your own customization. Now, I'll say this again, you're not messing around with your photos. You're not changing anything. Everything that's being presented here are essentially filters. You can think of them as filters. You can think of them as custom collections, um, or searches, kind of. They technically are kind of a search that's built in either by us or by Apple Photos. But the great thing about it is everything that you've done with your photo library up till now is still true. Your metadata, your album structure, et cetera, et cetera. So this is hopefully just going to take you to a whole nother level of access. Now, in addition to being able to reorder this stuff, you can do this thing called pinned collections. I mentioned these before, but this is just a golden opportunity to streamline your photo experience. Pinned collections are basically a collection of collections, I guess is the best way to put it. And what it means is within the pinned collections, you can pick and choose what you want to see. It can be a shortcut to an entire collection, or it can be a shortcut to something as specific as a particular album, or a particular trip, or a particular event, whatever. It's very, very flexible. So as you can see here, these are the suggestions of things when you play with the pinned collection. You can decide what you want in there, and at the bottom here it says you can go find some other stuff that isn't even in the list, and that's where you go to specific events and so forth. So this is where you want to take out those notes that I hope you've been making about the ways that you look for your photos and the way that you share your photos. And because this is where you can actually take those and make this your own experience. So here's an example of what I did. In pinned collections, when I made this new collection, this is the default. This is what came up in the standard pin collection when I looked at it on my iPhone. So I don't really care about recently saved. I hardly ever go back to that. I like maps. I'm big on locations. I like videos. I don't go back to look at screenshots really. That's something I would do on my Mac. I don't need favorites because I use the widget on the home screen to look at favorites. And I don't particularly need to drill through all my albums. So I can remove the ones that I don't want. I can leave the ones that I do, and then add those in from here. When all is said and done, what I ended up with was I put recently viewed, which is great because again, I can quickly get to something that I'm proud of or I think is cool, and I can share that with people easily. Um, I specifically like this group, um, people and pets collection. So I added that. Um, I like trips. Yeah, I'm a big trip person, so I wanted to include that, map, videos, and I have a album that I created for this cool Billy Joel concert that I went to. So I can add that in too. And of course, at some point I'll replace Billy Joel with something else, but not for a long time. So, and here are other suggestions. So this, I think, is ultimately cool because not only can you create these custom shortcuts, but you can also go back to the sort and you can push these pinned collections all the way to the top so that as soon as you open your Apple Photos, you're going to see the bottom of the camera roll, and the first thing you're going to see is this list of your pinned selections. How cool is that? So, okay, and this is what it looks like. So, I I created the I created this list for my pin collections, and this is how it shows up on my iPhone. Pretty neat. So I hope you guys have figured out how you can apply your search preferences to and finding preferences to pin collection. Everybody should do it. Okay. Um, so we've got a few miscellaneous things. Okay. So we've talked about the library concept. We've talked about the collections that Apple Photos gives us. We've talked about building our own look and feel in our own collections. There are a few kind of random things that I ran into that I just want to share. These are like kind of one-off things, but I know from working with thousands of people, sometimes it's those little things that bug them or get them sidetracked. So I think I found the ones that you may trip over. Okay, so Back to our home screen here. So it's really clear. Your collections are happening down here. Your camera roll, if you call it that, your library, all photos, that's what lives here. At the top, there are two things you may overlook. The first is this is where search lives. It doesn't have its own tab the way that it used to before. So when you search here, this is where you start, and you'll find this shows up in a couple of different places, but usually toward the top of most of the screens. Also, over here, you're going to see your own little identity icon, whatever you have picked. And this is a preferences button. This is where some of the look and feel comes. I'll show you how that works. If you hit that button on mine, you get this information. And it tells you what you've got in there, how big your collection is. It has a few things. We used to have a separate tab called shared with you, but you can look here to see what that is. If you use iCloud links, this is where now it shows you what you've shared and who you've shared it with. If you use iCloud shared photo libraries, this is where you determine what you're viewing, whether you're viewing just yours or theirs. If you're not sure about that, look up iCloud shared photo libraries for an explanation, and some other things here that are kind of self-explanatory, that you can go through. But the settings thing is going to show up from time to time or prompt you to go there. The other settings thing that is important to understand is there are these filters behind the scenes. So if you recall, we used to have a separate category for recents versus uh, camera date, camera roll. Now, if you go down on most of these screens, if you go down to this little up down arrow here, this gets you into this screen. And this screen allows you to, again, it allows you to choose what content you're looking at based on libraries. But you have a choice here of sorting by the capture date or sorting by when it was added. And this is kind of the old camera roll standby where you were always looking at the latest addition to your library as opposed to the date it was actually captured. So for instance, if you received a photo, somebody sent you a photo that was taken a month ago, and you save it into your photo library, the way that it normally would show up is on the date that it was actually taken. But some people prefer to have it uh, when it have it like now because they just added it and that's where they're going to look for it. They don't want to go back and hunt for it because they don't even know, or they never bothered to check when it was actually captured. So anyway, just be aware that this is here. You can test it. You can click it different ways. I think sort by date captured, I think is a great default for that. The other thing down here, there, we get into filters. You have a choice here of seeing whatever you want to see here. This again are other filters. If you only wanted to see photos, you could check that. And the only thing you would see in this large library view are photos. You wouldn't see any videos. You could just see screenshots if you wanted to. It gives you these options. Just check out the little double arrow down here to understand what's there. And if you're not seeing something that you think should be there, it almost certainly is because a filter has gotten turned on, that's removing other stuff. Here's, if you drill down a little bit, you get this as well. You can change the aspect ratio and so forth. This is in album view. So this is an album that I created. It also has those options of seeing oldest first, newest first, but it also, in albums, you get to sort, you create a custom sort. You can basically move the photos around to come up with your custom album view. So that's an option here if you want to do some curation in your albums. Another thing is, and this is a biggie, when you go to an album and when you go to many of the collections, you're going to be presented by default with what's called a summary view. And the summary view is a curated by Apple version of that collection. It's not all the photos. If you want to see all the photos, you need to go down to this icon, which will change to be either a summary or all grid. And then you can click on that and you can see everything that was in that album rather than just a curated subset. If you're doing, this is a movie screenshot, you have other settings here that you can play with for sharing, for editing. You can actually do quite a lot with this now as well. So if you like having little, video movies of stuff, this is a great place to look. And lastly, in settings, this is a biggie. We used to have, and we still do on the Mac, we used to be able to just have there was a back button at the top if you wanted, as you're drilling down on your photos. Now the thing is this X, and you'll see this X showing up on almost every page. So in order to go back, if you get to some place and all of a sudden you realize you don't know how to get back to the home screen, look for the X, and that will get you back. That stymied me for a little bit until, because it's really tiny on the iPhone, and sometimes it gets lost in the background of a picture or something. Okay, so that brings us to the end here. I hope I covered everything that you were looking for. I hope you're excited about this new interface. There's a lot to play with. And I do want to say that uh, I consider this a work in progress. Apple is, there's these new features that Apple has put out. They work really well. I'm sure it's going to come down to kind of seeing how we feel about it, how everybody uses it, and there's going to be new features that embedded in these features coming down the road. So 6 months from now, I'm sure there will be some other things going on, but this looks like the new system, and it'll be interesting to see if it migrates, some of it migrates over to the Mac. Not sure at this point, but I hope this gets you going with iPhoto or photos, sorry, on the iPhone. And thank you so much for watching. If you want to get a hold of me, please feel free to reach out. I'm always eager to know what people are finding, what things they're running into that they don't understand. I have a newsletter, a weekly newsletter that recently has a lot of articles about the new Apple Photos. It's 5-minute photos at substack.com. Please check it out if you have other questions. And that's it. Kathy, I
Yes,
think.
thank you. Wow, that was I'm going to come back and rewatch that because, of course, I'm sure how many other people that could raise their hand were quickly like doing some of the things that you were telling me about, and then I'm like, oh, and then I missed that point, or oh, I missed that point. So, yeah, that's amazing because I had not updated actually. So I thought I had, but I hadn't. So I am right in there with everybody else. We have quite a few questions I think that have come in. So Isabel, I'm sorry, Rebecca, you want to put some questions up here and we'll get Paul answering them.
Okay. Up, hold on. I think I froze.
Yeah, you're frozen, but we hear you. So I'm not sure why that is. But
Oh, well, good.
oh,
Oh,
you're back. Okay, now
there
you're
we go.
all right.
Okay, good
Rebecca, I
enough.
think will usually the questions will show up suddenly magically. Yes. So Karen wants to know: is there a way to hide screenshots without sending them to hidden photos?
Yes. The yeah, good question. That's the second time that's come up. Yes, what you do now with the new improved visuals, if you go um, to the settings on the screen on the library screen at the top, there is a setting in there to if you just choose to see photos and videos, it will discriminate out all the screenshots. Works great.
Okay. Next. Uh, Pavel says, which of your devices do you mostly use for manage your photos? Your iPad, your Mac, or your iPhone?
I use for it kind of splits between my iPhone and my Mac. I probably lean a little bit more to my Mac just because there's more real estate. Um, or let me say I have in the past. I just because of the this new toy. There's I'm learning stuff there that I'm really rethinking it because I just really like the fact that there are some of these shortcuts that I can get to photos with on my iPhone that are suddenly a little bit more tedious on the Mac. So, I'm I'm on the fence. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Okay. Next question.
Oh,
Diana. Oh,
I actually want to say something about that.
yeah.
I think the iPad is going to modify that a little bit. The iPad, if you have an iPad, I think it's worth playing with because the iPad interface is a combination of the iPhone and the Mac. You can pull up a sidebar navigation as an option. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, which is a terrible way to answer, but I think they all have some advantages, and but right now it's the phone and the Mac. So
All right. Diane asks, can you delete emails from all the devices at once? And I move a photo to an album, but how do you delete from the recents?
delete emails. Well, I'm not an email guy. Email is kind of its own world. If you're talking about attachments to emails, um, I am in the habit of anytime I get an attachment from an email, I save it. If it's something that I want to save, I save it to photos right away because it's just so much easier to keep track of. And I go through and I declutter emails. You can actually go into um, email and see all of the attachments from a particular person and pretty easily select them and delete them all at once. But But I think the key for managing email attachments is, look at it. If you're going to keep it, save it. If you're not going to keep it, delete it
Yeah.
right away if you can. That's really my.
And how about moving? If I move a photo to an album, but how do you delete from the recents?
The recent, like recently saved or recently imported.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe we need to get more clarity on that. Let's go to the.
Here's the thing. This goes back to the. I think this is what you're saying. The library. You're dealing with one library. I mean, that's what I like about the library thing, right? If a book is checked out, it's checked out of every place, right? So if you delete a photo, it is gone from recent filters, from wherever it was, it's gone. If it is recently imported or recently saved, it doesn't matter if you put it in an album, if you put it in a collection, if you put it somewhere else, it still is recently saved, so it's going to stay there. I think, yeah, that's really the good news and bad news about the whole thing.
All
But
right.
it's not really bad. I mean, it's just, um, people, many people are still of the mindset that, uh, a photo should be in one place and not any place else. And if you're used to working in a folder environment, I get that, and I think it's hard to maybe to reprogram that, but everything that we're doing is basically a set of filters. If we make an album, we're basically saying, I want this photo that's sitting in my library to show up when I look at this album, but it hasn't moved anything. It literally is just it's like a playlist in music. Yeah.
Derek wants to know, how do you edit trip names that have been incorrectly labeled or tagged?
By the Trip app. That that's one of my complaints. so yeah, if you're talking about the trip collection that just came up, it basically pulls the data off of the photos, whatever data is on the photos. And so if it's wrong on the photos, it's going to be wrong in the label. I tried to edit the name to make it my own. It doesn't let you do that. Maybe it will down the road. Um, if you if you go in, and if you're talking about how do you edit the location that it shows in the photo, you can do that just by going into the info palette on the iPhone. It basically means swiping up so that you get at the information, and you can go in and you can change the location that way. I hope that answers the question.
And Derek again asked, are pin collections limited to a maximum of 6 categories?
That's a really good question. I've never tried to break it. um, but that's a good question. I don't know.
Good to stump the teacher.
Yeah, but while we're doing this, I'm gonna try to break it.
One of our last questions. So see what you can find out, and then we'll.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Looks like
that was our last question for today.
Oh, that was?
Mhm.
Okay.
He's trying to.
Then did you you put in about the cheat sheet?
Yep, we got a cheat sheet there, and so got a lot of people thanking you for such a detailed presentation. Now they're ready to upgrade, and they feel a lot more comfortable. So got a lot of great things. So thank you for answering all those questions and things. So thank you, everybody. I mean, Paul, that was great. I definitely think this is something for me personally, I'm going to rewatch, and we'll probably, just like all technology, you got to keep playing with it. And like you said, that's fun for some people. It's fun. Some people it's like, oh,
Yeah.
So, and then, oh, we found out the answer. Somebody said he's created 7 pin collections during this video, so it's not limited to 6. So there we got our answer on that question.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Good job there. So
Great. Thank you.
yeah, so a reminder, please, those of you that have been joining us, please like this video. Please subscribe to our channel as well, because that really helps us, and share this with others, because we continue working on growing this. And then if you make comments and things on the video, that also helps with our search engine optimization, and those things really help. So we're thrilled to have you be a part of this, and we're going to continue to bring you great content next month and also into the future. Next month, we're actually bringing on the CEO and the founder of an app called PhotoMind, which will be fun. I've never personally met her, the CEO who founded that. So that'll be an interesting conversation. And then, but continue to be on our email list, and we'll let you know of other great events that are coming up. So thank you, Paul, and everybody have a great,
All right.
hard to believe we're heading towards that holiday crazy time. Our Black Friday sale, for those of you, if you want to purchase courses, Paul has wonderful courses. Go to the Photo Managers Academy and you can save 25% starting on Monday for 1 week only. We only do that twice a year. So if you love Paul's teaching, there's some really great courses as well that you can have access to.
All right. Thanks, Kathy.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.